Hello and welcome to Dani Golden's podcast featuring the lovely and talented Miss Heidi Bacani, licensed marriage family therapist. We are,
Here we are again.
We're very excited once again to talk about today's podcast, episode 10, Why Haters Gotta Hate. And this was inspired by the comedian Cat Williams. So, and this dovetails into emotional intelligence and what that means and how it impacts our self-esteem. Today, we want to provide tips and tools for negative self-talk, negative narratives, negative messaging from society, the outside world, and people we interact with on a daily basis. So a lot to cover. But before we get into all that, Heidi, will you do the disclaimer?
Oh, sure. Thanks for the recap, Dani.
Yeah.
Today we are providing this presentation to be informative and entertaining and fun for us. And please don't use it as a substitute for therapy to all the viewers and listeners out there in the internet's land. Please go seek out help if you are in need of therapy right now. We're here to support in the way that we can with our humor and our dialogue. So enjoy.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, more often than not, on my journey to get to where I'm at now, I felt alone, very alone. And what has helped me not feel alone on my journey is the ability to relate to other people and be like, hey, has this ever occurred to you or whatever? So we try to use these podcasts as an opportunity to have our viewers and listeners. Yes.
Empathize.
We don't want you guys to feel alone.
Right.
You're not.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm looking at my notes. If I keep looking right and you guys are watching me, that's why. My notes are right there. So how Cat Williams' comedy routine, Why Haters Gotta Hate, inspired me. So what happened was one of my really good guy friends, he and I were talking because after I went through a lot of really dark and heavy stuff, like about 10 years ago was the culmination of everything. I really noticed that not only did I not know who I was, but I was so concerned with what everyone else thought about me that I started, and I think this happened before like the demise, I started delegating to everyone else and looking to everyone else for validation for my feelings, my sense of self, and my life, essentially. And
Welcome
to
the club.
Yeah, it was not a fun place to be. You know, I was journaling about it last night, and I feel like, you know, somewhere along the way I lost myself. I'm not really sure when, but obviously I think that happens slowly and it's not something that happens overnight. So it would be very hard to pinpoint the exact moment. But my point is that, you know, I was venting to one of my guy friends about how I felt like in certain incidents, so-and-so didn't like me or my behaviors. And I was being really self-critical, a lot of negative self-talk, and just not being my own best friend at all. And so he showed me this Cat Williams clip, Why Haters Gotta Hate, and it was hysterical. It added a lot of levity to the situation and really helped me process all these things I'd been thinking and feeling from a different perspective. And the more I've dove into this issue, the more I've realized that if I really think about what puts a smile on my face and what brings me fulfillment, which is my state of peace, like those are things that I've learned about myself that bring me into a state of emotional homeostasis. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, not even my best friends or the people in my family whose opinions I respect. If I create something and I'm proud of it and they're not in love with it, I'm still proud of it. Or if I put on a dress or an outfit that I really like, and, you know, not everyone's buying into that look. Again, it's something I want to wear. It's my journey. It's my process. So I think it's just really getting to the point, you know, where I can own myself and stop looking to other people. And so, you know, it's taken me a long time to get here, and it's taken a lot of self-work, self-analysis, and just really brutal honesty. But yeah, so that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast, is because and I still think there are moments where, you know, I was just telling Heidi before we got on, where I felt like I had this weird interaction with someone that's becoming a friend. And instead of holding back, I decided to send a text message and say, like, hey, I felt like this was weird. Like, maybe I'm in my head or whatever. And I was telling Heidi, you know, I'm just at the point in my life where it's like, I have nothing but love for the people that I've chosen to surround myself with. And so if that love is not reciprocated, it's better to know now, right? It's better to know now that people in your circle are going to support you or not. And just be done with it and accept it. And it's funny when I talk to myself as like a stranger, and I look, it's like I'm paranoid about a text I send or something, and then I think about it like later, I'm like, there's nothing bad about that. That was just real kindness. That was just love. That was this, you know? And so it's really helped me, again, shift perspective, learn how to be a more positive influence on myself and not my own worst enemy.
Right. What a journey to self-love.
Really is.
Yeah. And it's lifelong work. It doesn't end.
No, it's just not. There's always something else that comes up.
Yeah, it's always managing those internal messages and core beliefs that have been with us from a very young age. So getting to a place where we can care less about what other people think, and we can love ourselves enough to validate ourselves, you know, through all the fear of judgment, is such such a huge accomplishment, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, it really is a rewarding and fulfilling feeling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So when Heidi and I were brainstorming, we talked about how the topic of haters really relates to behaviors that don't serve us. So what we were kind of talking about, like people pleasing, playing small, which I've definitely done and am angry at myself for doing, caring too much about what other people think, what we just talked about, etc. So, you know, in my past life, what I was talking about previously, before, you know, the wheels really came off the bus, I remember being in a place where I lost myself and decided, like, oh, it's best to, you know, make other people happy. And in the process of trying to make everyone else happy, not only did I make myself miserable, but I wasn't pleasing anybody. And it was a very optimal learning experience in the sense that I'll never make that mistake again. And
good choice of words. Yeah.
You don't please people. Listen, this might not be the most politically correct way of saying this, but people who don't like me are not going to like me, regardless if I change who I am. They're just not going to like me. If anything, they'll stop respecting me now because I've changed who I am for them. So if someone doesn't like me or doesn't like you, let them not like you. Shine your brightest, be your badass self, and do you. Because not doing you isn't going to change anything. Take it from someone who's been there. So that's really the impetus behind doing this, wanting to do this podcast and really sharing with you guys. Take it from someone who's been there and done that. Do not waste your time.
Exactly. Protect your time, protect your energy. I totally agree. Yeah.
Right. Yes. So now that I've given you all those like interesting personal tidbits, I would like to get into the emotional intelligence breakdown and talk about good self-esteem and what that looks like. So Heidi, I will pass the baton to you.
Okay. I will attempt to not overthink this online here, and also and try to keep it organized. So let me start by a brief breakdown of the who, the what, and the why
Love
of
it.
a hater.
Okay.
Okay. So who is a hater? These questions came up to me when after our brainstorm trying to figure out how to structure this conversation, and I thought it would be a good way to start just through exploring or doing the hard work of exploring who, the what, and the why. So first question I asked myself was who is a hater? And what I was able to surmise is that it's the bullies. It's the bullies on the playground. You know, it's the neighbors who try to intimidate us. It's the people who criticize, make accusations, or make negative comments about us on our social media or in our workplaces. We've talked about all these different situations, you know, for the past 9 episodes that we've done. So
right.
That is the who. And if you've been following our podcast, you can connect all those facts, you know, with stories that we've shared on here. And second question I asked myself is what is a hater? And what I came up with was a hater is someone who criticizes another to help themselves feel important or powerful.
Ooh, I love that.
And I think that's what Cat Williams actually was trying to convey in his stand-up was they need to be that way to feel okay with themselves, basically, is what he's saying. And then last question is, why do haters hate? And again, what I came up with was it's a behavior that comes from a core belief that the hater is not as good as the person they are passively or actively interacting with, like someone that they're meeting not even meeting, they could just be observing someone in everyday life, or trying to interact with a video that they watched on YouTube of the person that they're watching. And their hate is it's a reflection of their wanting a talent or maybe wanting a material possession that the other person has.
Yeah.
Right? So it's important to understand, I think, the psychology a little bit to get to where we can figure out how to respond to them instead of react. So the who, the what, and the why, I think covers it. And then do you want me to move on to like how to cope with a hater, Dani?
Yes. I mean, this is wonderful. I'm ready.
Okay.
I just wish I had you 10 years ago in my back pocket. Probably longer ago.
I know. Same here. I wish I had me too. All right. How to cope with a hater. So these are tips and tools to help preserve what Dani mentioned earlier, self-esteem, feelings of self-worth, sense of self. And we just, I think you mentioned, we talked a little bit briefly earlier about how we don't have the time or the energy to give these people. So, you know, better to just let it go, move on, not, you know, do our best to not care.
Yeah.
So tip number 1 is along the same lines. Protect your energy and your time. Work on developing a core belief that you value your work time, your nap time, your energy, and therefore you don't have time to pay attention to all this negativity that is out there in the world. And then tip number 2 is recognize that their comment is a statement about really themselves, their low self-esteem, their lack of self-esteem. And again, you don't have to own it as your truth just because someone says it. Easier said than done, though, because most of us have trauma. Most of us have these really negative experiences that happen during a very formative period in our development. Like the most formative time in a human's development is like 2 to 5 and 11 to 18, let's say.
Okay.
So, you know, there's a lot going on in those periods of life. College, high school,
Junior high. Ugh.
junior high, right.
Yeah. See, even Cooper agrees.
Super wonderful. So yeah, because this is such a formative time when we're developing our sense of self and our core beliefs, we're going to have those past experiences traveling with us into adulthood and really impact. Because those experiences are so impactful, we have these immediate reactions, these automatic reactions to conflict. And that is why it's so easy to say, like, let it go, forgive,
Oh, yeah.
you know. So tip number 3 has to do with processing, like, our strong reactions to people's negativity when we're feeling criticized. Yeah. Or when we're overthinking a situation and feel like we're getting criticized without real evidence of it. So when those things occur, it's because of a past experience that we had that informed us, like, this is real. Like, someone had judged you for real. It wasn't something you made up. And now you're still being impacted by that experience.
In the present moment from the past.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So when we have an emotional charge that is bigger or doesn't match the situation, that's a time to talk to a friend or talk to our therapist about the comment, the feedback, the post that is causing us to feel a certain way, creates a large reaction in us, and explore if there is a history of abuse or trauma that is unresolved for us, we haven't really healed from, perhaps. Yeah. So the tips are hard work. These tools and tips that I'm suggesting are not just things that can be done in the moment. Sometimes we have to process some things also.
And it's not immediate gratification, self-growth.
Right. Exactly.
It's the opposites.
Hard arse work.
Yeah.
Number 4, use creativity. I was just thinking about submitting a submission to this museum in Massachusetts because one of my favorite cartoonists is Edward Gorey.
Okay.
And Edward Gorey has a theme in his cartoons about a product called QSV. And QSV is a tincture. It can be a tincture, it can be a cream, it can be anything really that you put on something that fixes the issue.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, QSV. So I was going to, like, I was just thinking about our conversation of today, about our conversation today, and, like, maybe I can draw a QSV for hate, like coping with haters.
I love that. Oh my gosh.
Use your creativity. Go crazy, you know, like, draw a funny cartoon, write a poem, write a haiku about an event, do a podcast, do things that get you out of your comfort zone a little bit and help you use your imagination to help you cope with a situation in a fun way.
I love that.
Tip 5, use humor. Watch Cat Williams or other comedians. He's not the only one who does stand up about haters, I'm sure. I'm sure we can find many examples. Yeah. So I love the humor option. It's my favorite.
Same.
And then number 6 is use empathy to help us understand that everyone has stuff. And if the situation calls for it, use that understanding or that new insight to forgive that person as well.
Yeah.
If appropriate. I mean, sometimes it's good enough to let it go. But sometimes forgiveness is definitely part of overcoming
healing
the injury. Yeah. So those are my tips and tools and tricks for coping with haters, Dani.
I love it. And just to clarify, the forgiveness is for for us, not for the
Yes,
hater. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Because my journey of forgiving not only myself, but people that
Mm-hmm.
I was in conflicts with, I wasn't forgiving them in the sense that I was condoning their behavior. I was forgiving the fact that I would like to think that had we known better, we would have done better, and we
Right.
didn't know better. So I'm going to forgive us for being ignorant
Human
and
and ignorant.
uninformed and
Mm-hmm.
human. Yeah. Um, and that weight seems to, you know, slowly
Yeah,
leave when you
it
do that.
helps.
Yeah.
It helps resolve the emotional injury, I think. You mentioned earlier forgiving ourselves, and I think that's also part of the process of healing from an emotional injury, because what can happen as a result of someone criticizing us is that we can be, like you mentioned, very hard on ourselves. So forgiving ourselves for not being perfect,
Oh,
and yeah, and not standing up to the person in the moment, or we can overthink it 1,000 different ways, so
mm-hmm.
forgive ourselves for all the ways we overthink it.
Yeah, no, and to elaborate on that, just for our viewers and listeners,
Yeah.
you know, there was a lot of time that I spent trying to be perfect because I thought that had I been perfect, which is just, it's just funny because perfection is really in the eye of the beholder, right? Everyone's definition of what perfect is completely different. But in
Right.
my imagination, I thought that if I was perfect, I could have eliminated or avoided all that
Right.
all the bad things that happened. When in reality, they were lessons that were meant to happen, and I'm grateful for them. There are
Yeah.
parts where I probably made the road bumpier than it needed to be, but that's okay. That's, you know, that's
For the
also a
process.
lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the process. And, you know, I really didn't know then what I know now. And it's
Right.
very, you know, I had a therapist once tell me that like the farther you get away from something, sometimes the harder it is to look at it because you have more awareness. And
Right.
and I
That's
remember
true.
my reaction to that, or my response to that, was, oh great. But, you know, like this thing will haunt me forever. But really it's not like that. It's more just
We're
you're
learning.
able to, yeah, you're able to look at it in a
Yeah.
clearer way and see it for what it is. And once you can let go of um being angry at people and yourself,
Right.
it becomes more, it even becomes more clear.
More
So
resolved.
yeah, more
Yeah.
resolved. I just had the visual of, like, you know, when you lose something, like sometimes I'll lose my hair tie when I'm sitting in the jacuzzi and the water's all moving and you can't find it and you can't find it and you can't see and you can't see. But when you turn off the bubbles and everything stops, you have
Right.
clarity. So that's kind
Right.
of like what it's like when you get away from something. You're able to look at it through with like clarity and see.
Yeah. We
So
have lots of bubbles that we have
lots of
to
bubbles
work through in our life.
and turbulence. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I love those tools and tips.
Thanks, Dani.
And now I'm going to ask you a question if we're ready,
Oh,
unless you have anything else.
no, that was it for tools and tips. The question, I deliberated over this for a while.
Okay. All right. So tell me about a time when you found yourself playing small, caring too much, or people pleasing because of a hater or haters.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely relate to this question personally. And like I just said, I had such a hard time coming up with something and I couldn't figure out why that was. And I think my conclusion is my brain just does an amazing job at helping to protect me from things that are uncomfortable. And so it took me a minute to figure it out. Several minutes of contemplation, but I did finally come up with something to share with you and the audience. Um, this is me being vulnerable.
Okay.
Sometimes, sometimes in my attempt to support my clients, my family, friends, or people in the world, I too can care too much about what people think about me or fear that they will hate me for something totally not hateable. And these stories, these lies, these myths that I tell myself leave me feeling less than, not enough, or small. And I know that these are cognitive distortions that stem from childhood abuse, being told that I'm incapable of making good decisions, being told I'm a leech, being told I don't deserve to have what I want. So after recognizing this in the moment when I'm feeling dysregulated, emotionally dysregulated, I can notice like my heart is racing, I'm not breathing as well. After noticing those physical cues, I understand that there's like some core belief that is coming up for me, something that I feel like that is getting in the way of my like emotional regulation, um, and also I know that these core beliefs get in the way of success or joy. And many times in my life, I've borrowed other people's courage to start doing things that I want to do instead of believing these core beliefs that I have. So it's not like a specific event that I'm sharing about. It's just all the many times that, like I overthinked or like felt that someone was criticizing me when they hadn't really. And so when I'm able to like slow down, when I'm able to like process what happens to me during the day, I understand that like these are just old things. This is old stuff that's coming up. So that's when historically, when this has happened, like in my 20s, what I did was I leaned into other people's courage to help me like break through those thoughts, those myths, those lies, to not stop me or prevent me from doing the things that I wanted to do. So things I worked on were to pursue wishes and wants in college. And then when I got out of school, finished school, I started traveling. I went to self-help workshops, went to therapy diligently, bought lots of books, paid for online dating memberships, all these things that would support like little Heidi's dreams and vision of what kind of adult she wanted to be. And it is lifelong work. I mean, those dreams I can't say I've accomplished a lot of things, I feel like, but they're still ongoing dreams. The story is not, it's not over. It's not done. So I'm still continuing to work on those same fears, those same myths, those same lies, those same narratives today. So some more general, I think.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. And I love that you've utilized it. Look, it sounds to me like you've been able to identify like, oh, I have these reoccurring this negative self-talk that's right. That's a result of things that were said to me at one point in time by people, that were in my past, and to get over that hurdle of like being consumed by those repetitive negative self-talk. You were like, okay, I'm not going to tune into that channel. Right. I'm going to change the channel and I'm going to focus on what does Heidi want? What are Heidi's dreams? And so for you, it was to become a therapist. So you were going to do these self-help workshops, or you wanted to travel. So you were like, I'm going to get exposure and see the world. And I love the fact that you utilize the inspiration and strength of the people that you chose to surround yourself with in the future to help catapult you to the person you want to be. And you were like, okay, well, I'm going to piggyback off that person's courage because I aspire to be that courageous. Exactly. And that's beautiful.
Thanks, Dani. Thank you for seeing me.
I do see you. You're going to make me cry. Of course I see you. I did not have the luxury of doing that and seeing so clearly. And I think that's so admirable. Like, I literally let the weight of other people's opinions of me crush me until I didn't know who I was anymore. And so I had to break and die and rise again like a phoenix to figure out who I was. But you just were like, I'm just, and I think that's just so beautiful. Yeah. And I think that's also helpful for the viewers and listeners to hear, because I think, we all face it and we all have different, I think you being vulnerable and sharing like what people have said to you is just, I want to kill those people and I mean, not kill them, but like, I want to harm them.
Yeah.
Cause I'm mama bear. I think it's helpful for other people to hear the negative things that we have in our own head about that we say to ourselves, because it makes everyone feel like we're not alone. Right. Mm-hmm. So, I have my own dialogue and my own script that, of things, but, I just think that's such a beautiful journey. Yeah. And thank you so much for sharing. Yeah. You've definitely come a long way.
Oh,
I mean, now you're going to submit a creative project to this thing, which I want to see this animation or cartoon, whatever it is. I want to see it. I want to put it on the website. So,
yeah. So sweet.
Yeah, no, for sure. I do. So if you are comfortable with it, but yeah.
Of course. The journey is messy. It's definitely messy. Yeah. It's definitely messy for me too. I went into a lot of dark places, I think, to get through, through to the other side. But those were necessary for sure. When I hear you talking about like having to like die to come back and go through your rebirth, I mean, that's a beautiful part of the process, I think, because it is a rebirth and we're messy, and that's okay.
Yeah, no, this Humpty Dumpty had to fall apart to get back together again. So yeah, I mean, everyone's process is different, and you're so right. Whether it be mud or a storm or whatever that darkness looks like, I just think it's important that we remind ourselves and each other that like there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And when I was going through all my really dark stuff, one of my dear friends that I've known since we were kids, I remember she turned to me and she said, "The best days of your life aren't behind you."
Aww.
And I was like, "Wait, what?" Can you just say that one more time?
That's
and she repeated it, and she said, right. And she said, "The best days of your life are not behind you." And I was like, "How do you know that?" And she's like, "I don't know. I just do." And I think it's those little pieces of golds and those gems that we can like hold on to that like kept me going forward. And it's a ugly and horrible process, but at the same time it's beautiful and lovely and life-giving and all that thing. So it's a mixed bag.
It is. And you get to see how strong, our constitution, your constitution is, my constitution, that like, and our grit, right? Like we can get through, if we can get through this, and we did, and we're going to do
there's power.
Yeah.
There's power in that. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's, then when you're faced with something else again, you're like, oh, yeah, that's not. Been
there, done that.
Yep. Just no. You're just a little. No. So yeah, no, it is. It's extremely empowering and very, very beautiful. So. All right. Well, you are most welcome. Thank you for sharing again. That was lovely. All right. We are going to get into the PSA and books and finish with that.
Okay. Let's see. PSA books. So this week's PSA public service announcement, I wanted to focus on therapists that I know personally, and I know are lovely to work with and offer a sliding scale. They're all in the Torrance area, and these are all therapists that I would personally go see if I was a client. So here's the list. So we have Sayaka Kawase, Sayaka. Last name Kawase, Kawase. She's a PhD and LCSW, licensed clinical social worker and doctor of psychology. And her phone number is 424-704-5041, 424-704-5041. And Kathleen Laub, Laub is her last name. She's a licensed marriage family therapist, or LMFT. And her phone number is 310-871-4038. 310-871-4038. We have three more here. We have Mark Shokair. Last name is Shokair, Shokair. He's a LMFT. 925-272-2442, 925-272-2442. And Mrs. Alexandra Armas, LMFT as well. Armas is Armas, and her phone number is 949-247-8387. 949-247-8387. Last but not least, we have Dr. Cheryl Santiago. And she's a PsyD, and her phone number is 310-299-7410. 310-299-7410. So those are my therapists in the area, in the Torrance area. And then the two books I thought I would mention are, let's see. One is Prisoner of Hate.
Ooh.
Isn't that a great title? Comma, the cognitive basis of anger, hostility, and violence is the whole title. And this is by Dr. Aaron T. Beck. Aaron is Aaron. He's a psychiatrist and founder of what's now well-known cognitive behavioral therapy, the most researched and most widely used style of psychotherapy today. And then Happily Even After.
Oh, I like that.
Daily practices to recover joy after hardship, heartache, and heartbreak. I love that title. So
I do too.
So catchy. And I love that he used the word even instead of ever. Happily Even After.
Yeah.
And this is from Dr. Jonah Paquette, and Jonah is spelled Jonah. Paquette, Paquette.
Okay.
And he writes about how he teaches how to unlearn negative self-talk to self-talk that we obtain during a traumatic event. He focuses on teaching us how to do that.
That's wonderful. And I will put these resources below the podcast so that the viewers and listeners can have access to them.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, this was wonderful. We want to thank you all for tuning in, and please tune in again and listen to our next podcast. And just, I think it's just important to remind our viewers and listeners you're not alone in your thoughts and feelings. And, it's really important at the end of the day that you love yourself and that you feel fulfilled and happy. And the people who love and support you, if you're happy, will be happy for you and with you. And I just would like to leave you with that.
Beautiful way to end. I have 3 words: empathy, tolerance, forgiveness. Those are
I love that.
Words to meditate on for me today.
Love it. Well, thank you all, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.